want their child to have a one-on-one session with someone helping them create a business plan. That's something I'm going to be doing. Really excited about that. Of course, before we say anything, I want to put my thanks out to all the paramedics, the nurses, the police officers, the doctors who are out there risking their lives for us, the delivery people from shipped in all these companies like Instacart that are literally, putting themselves in danger in a sense to get us groceries while we're stuck in the house and things of that nature. I just wanted to make sure I shout them all out. And, it's interesting times that we're going through, but I really want people to know that you're not alone. And this is my way of giving back. With a finance curriculum that's in multiple schools, one of the cool things is that I've been able to now transform everything to working from home in the sense that I basically have been doing online classes with youth and adults. And it's been really exciting to be able to transition. But let me tell you something, keeping the youth's attention via online classes is not easy whatsoever because they get distracted. They're like, ooh, a butterfly. And I'm like, yeah, fam, look over here. So it's been really interesting, to transfer to online courses and even adults. I prefer face-to-face being in person, which is actually why our finance curriculum is not really a software that people can just do online most of the time. We usually send professors and myself into the actual colleges and schools to do it because I realized that online kids are just, even in person, you sometimes have to wheel them right back in, right? Okay, so I think we've given enough time for people to join. It's 12:09, so I'm just gonna get started. And people sent in questions, but if you guys have questions, I'm gonna be trying to read what you post in the live chat, and I am definitely going to be trying to shout out people that I know, like Mike, Coach Mike BK, amazing teacher and scholar from Brooklyn. I've gone to his school with his kids, and that was really awesome. And I appreciate everyone who's logged in. Sybil, I noticed your name pop up, so thank you for logging in. And we're getting started in 3, 2, 1. So fundamentals: protect your brand. Save, invest, spend is the definite ratio that everyone who has a business needs to learn. For different people, it will be a different ratio. For some people, it's like 30, 30, 40. But in the end of the day, you have to find a ratio that works for you. Some people save 30%, invest 30%, and spend 40%, right? So you have to find a ratio that works for you. That's not necessarily going to be the ratio for everyone, but you have to find your ratio, and that should be, even if it's 5% of whatever is financially coming into your household, you need to be saving something. Write and visualize. It's a really important fundamental of having a business. It's so easy to talk about all these amazing things that we want to do, but it's so important that you actually write and visualize. Because what happens is when you have this list and you write it down and you start to check off the list, some weeks, some months are going to be hard. And what I mean by that is, like, let's say you had 20 goals and then March you had 20 goals, April comes and you only accomplish 2 out of the 20 goals. 2 things happen by writing it down and visualizing it. 1, you can keep looking back to see what were your goals for the month of March. 2, you get to see what you actually did accomplish. And 3, visualization is everything. Seeing it is reminder. It also helps you realize maybe you could be more productive and check off next things the next month. Then you could transfer what you didn't do in March, hopefully to April, and check off more items off of the list. But another positive thing about visualization is at the end of the year, guess what? If you had 20 things you want to do every month and you checked off 2 things each month, at the end of the year, that's still at least 24 items or things on your list of to-dos that you got to accomplish. And to me, there's never any goal, anything that you've accomplished. There's nothing that's too small for you to not pat yourself on the back. Reward yourself is my next fundamental. When you have a business, it's important for you to reward yourself. You cannot expect other people to reward you. Actually, this is going to be one of the questions that someone sent in the link tree in the Google document that a lot of you filled out. Someone asks, what accomplishment is too small for me to reward myself? There is no accomplishment that is too small to reward yourself. And the world is going to be hard on you. The world is hard enough as it is. You don't need to be hard on yourself. And honestly, you need to kind of, what's the word? Give yourself a pat on the back. You need to reward yourself. If you did one positive thing, you should brush your shoulder off. Like Jay-Z says, brush your shoulder off, reward yourself. Maybe if it's something like go for an extra walk at the park or whatever your reward is, find something within your means and reward yourself. And the reason why I say that's important is because in the end of the day, the world is not going to reward you. So if you're not cheering yourself on, it can be depressing. You get to a point sometimes when we have like major accomplishments that the world then rewards you, which is cool, but that's not necessarily customary, right? And it's once again major accomplishments, right? But how many major accomplishments do you have in a month or a year? And in the end of the day, it's important that you uplift yourself. You cannot wait for the world to uplift you. You need to start with uplifting yourself. And as you uplift yourself, believe it or not, I feel like more people will fall into the wagon of, yeah, sis, like that energy is dope, because everyone loves good energy. Next, get a mentor. Um, you know, it's so important. I don't care how much money, millions you have, or if you have $300 in your bank account, find yourself a mentor. And the reason why I think that's important is because no matter how much you know, there's somebody who's done more, and there's somebody who knows a little bit more that can help you on your journey. I can't even tell you myself, like, I've accomplished a lot, and it's like, in the end of the day, I still have a mentor. And it's different mentors, right? You don't expect necessarily one mentor to fit every category. So what I mean by that is I have a mentor for real estate investing, and someone who has a portfolio that's ridiculous. And I'm like, yo, one day I want my portfolio to be on your level. You have a mentor when it comes to investing in stocks. I might have worked in it for many years, but I still have people who are literally obsessed with stocks that are a mentor, and will pour into me and remind me to do certain things, or let me know to look where I need to be looking. I have a mentor when it comes to emotional, social emotional health. It could be like books, telling me what books are good for me to read, which actually at the end of this, I'll be emailing all of you guys a rough draft of this list. Books that are my favorite books on a social emotional health level or on a financial level, books that are really productive, website and apps that we're going to go over today will be all emailed to you guys. So next, create a team. If you cannot afford to purchase a team, to get a team, it's okay to barter or look for a team that's willing to give you discount services. I'm really big on trying my best to give people their worth. So if someone tells me, hey, my services are $1,000, and let's say if that's not in my budget at that particular moment, then, or it's not on my priority level, then I might see if I can barter some of my services for them, or see if they have a discount that I can use. And I don't ask straight up like, oh, can I get 60% off? I just ask, hey, do you have any special promotions coming up? Which is really important, that if you want to work with someone, you don't disrespect them, and that you don't insult them, right? Because oftentimes, and I'm the kind of person, just so you know, I'll go into Macy's, I'll go into Nordstrom, I'll go into whatever store, and I'll ask, what promotions and sales and discounts can you apply? And I learned that actually from a Jewish woman that I was friends with. She would go into like Bergdorf Goodman and be like, what sales do you have for me? And there was always at least a 10% that they could give her. So for me, that is kind of like my second rule of nature now. I don't pay full price for anything. When I do buy something that I am paying full price for, I'm very particular about that. But if you have to build a team, there's two aspects. If you have the money, of course, then great. And, it's important to have like a lawyer on your team, a person who's good at budgeting, a person who's good at scheduling and helping to organize like an event planner. There's just different people, depending what kind of business you want to have. There's going to be different people you need on your team, virtual assistants, interns, bartering. Ashley's great. Those are definitely good things to look at. But people forget how important it is to have a team. It's so hard to do everything on your own. And even when I was starting out, I remember thinking like, okay, I left corporate. I didn't have all this money that I want to spend on things because I know the importance of having some kind of a savings and nest egg. And I was a mom, so it's like when you're a mother, you're like, you start to be like more responsible. And so building my team, I started to barter. So I became a certified nutritionist, and I was helping women who has postpartum and were dealing with postpartum issues. So I was doing things and working with people that I could then connect and help me with my goals. And you know, some of those people you remain friends with for life, right? And then some of those people you might not know in a year or 2 years, but they might have served their purpose in that aspect in that time of your life. Um, Next, once again, I'm looking down at my cute little book. I have bullets that I want to make sure I don't forget with you guys. Um, Always keep written track of money coming in and money going out. And money going out is everything, including pending bill collectors. Do not ever think that if you have a bill that is due and you just let it pile up on your table, that the problem goes away. Sometimes actually the problem gets bigger by ignoring those bills. So I'm always telling people like it's really important for you to not ignore your bills. Um, so now that we kind of gone over the fundamentals of important aspects of having a business, protect your brand, save, invest, spend, reward yourself, get a mentor, create a team, and always keep written track of money coming in, money going out. Since we tackled that and going to the next thing that we're going to be talking about will be protecting your brand, right? When I say protecting your brand, some people automatically think about the cha-ching aspect of it, but you should not create a business if you haven't done certain necessary steps to protect that business and what you're trying to empire you're trying to create. What I mean by that is, to be specific, hold on a second and go through my notes so I don't forget anything. Um, so to start, look up the name before you purchase a business, before you even start building the brand itself, because branding is everything in having a business. The first thing you should do is look up the domain name alone. Look up the domain name. Is a website available? Two, go to the government's website and look if you, depending what kind of business you want to have, a 501c3, an LLC, S corp, C corp, which are the different kind of incorporations and protection of brands of your business. Look to see that if the name is available. Let's say we're gonna use my company, Money is Not My God, right? So, or we use Kitsu Bank. So everyone knows Kitsu Bank, right? Before I created Kitsu Bank, the first thing I did was go to look up if the name Kitsu Bank was available. Then I looked on the government website if I wanted to LLC it, which that's what I ended up doing. Is that available? And then I went to even trademarks, the USPTO.gov website. You can look up these things yourself. You don't have to pay, LegalZoom $300, $500 to look up a name and if it's available and do a search for you. These are things, honestly, it's really like self-explanatory. If you can read, you can go on USPTO.gov and look up if your business name is not trademarked by someone else. The reason why that's important is that if you start to brand your company, like let's say I'm branding Kids Bank, but I go on USPTO.gov, if I'm putting Kids Bank on t-shirts, Kids Bank on Instagram and all these social media platforms, I'm going to want to protect it, right? I'm going to go and trademark the name Kids Bank. But if somebody else has that trademark pending, then that can pose an issue for me, especially if it's in the same classification. So like, let's say their Kids Bank is a cooking show for some weird reason, but mine is financial literacy courses. I could still trademark and get that, right? But then it's conflict. People could be Googling Kids Bank and this cooking company is coming up, and the list continues. So protecting your brand, getting a trademark is really important. So before you even start your business, before you start branding and putting all this energy and love into it, make sure it's available to you. Go on social media, even if you're pending for the LLC to come through, even if your trademark is pending, even if you don't even have enough money, let's say, to get a trademark yet. One of the cool things that you can do is at least save the social media name. Go on Instagram and lock in the name. Go on Twitter, lock in the name. All these different things that you can lock in before you even get to that point, right? So it's really important that you do those things when you're building your brand and your business. Um, Even if you're like, let's say, a lyricist, protecting your brand is also like copywriting, right? If you wrote a book, if your child wrote a book, copyrights average from $30 to $55, right? How many times have you had $30 that you could have used towards protecting a book that you're writing, or you could have utilized for a project that you're working on, right? Copyrights are really important. Rather it's a song or whatever, it's honestly so affordable nowadays that it's something that you should just do. I had a question. One of the questions that came in was from a person who's a singer, and she writes all her songs. And she said to me, Jatali, please let me know, how can I protect my songs? Because copywriting each song at $30 is very hella expensive. Guess what, sis? Create a copyright book. Write your first song book, right? And it could be a book compilation of all the songs that you've written. And you could make your songs into chapters. And guess what? Now you just go and copyright the book for $30. All the songs are your songs. If you don't aim to sell those songs to other people, especially, it makes it really easy and simple. But these songs are all now your songs. You just copyright a whole book. It could be a book of 50 pages. And with you copywriting a book of 50 pages as a singer, guess what? All 50 of your songs are now copywritten. And for $30, you just protected all of your songs instead of protecting each song individually for $30, $30, $30. So, and that goes for artists too. Let's say you want to, if you have art and you have all these sketches and your child has all these sketches and all these great ideas, $55 per sketch can be very expensive, can really add up, right? So what would you do then? Create a kid's book or create a picture book, and it could be an adult picture book. And one page, it could be a picture, and the next page could be like a summary of the picture, like girl looking at moon, right? And then guess what? Now you just had a whole book for $55 of all your artwork with, the names of your artwork protected for $55. So it's really important, instead of thinking how expensive it is to protect your brand, find the tricks and the ways that you can protect it, but at a good price, right? Bargain, right? It's really important that we work things in our favor. So before I continue, I will take a second to look at a question that came in on this aspect as well. Hold on. I did see one that I wanted to answer for you guys. Cheers, Chino. Thank you for tuning in. So someone, Nomi, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Nomi711 said, should some of it be invested and some saved? Yes, it's really important to have a balance of what you're saving, what you're investing. But I always tell people, if you save, but don't invest, your money's not truly multiplying. And what I mean by that is the cost of living goes up every year. To give you an example, I had a client, and he was this older guy, and he was into real estate. He always, he worked a corporate job, a 9 to 5, and he was putting money in his 401k. And he wasn't truly investing money. He was just saving money. His 401k wasn't matched by the company. So he was just putting money into it, which is important. Business owners, if you work for someone else, try your best to get them to match your 401k, even if it's 1% or 2% or 30%. Try to get them to put something towards it, because they make money off of your money, your 401k money. So you should definitely make money off of that too. But so imagine now, this man, he was waiting for retirement to move to this picturesque place in California. It was a beautiful town. And he had, for the last 30 years in his mind, that when he retired, he was going to move there. When he first started looking at properties, they were like at 600,000, 550,000. So he saved enough money that he would have been able to retire and live out the rest of his life at this picturesque place that was near water in Cali, and it was gorgeous, and the houses were only 600,000. By the time he was able to retire, the house was now worth 1.5 million. Because he wasn't really investing and he was only saving money. At the point that I met him, he was depressed and sad because he had all his heart and goals, all his picture boards, all his vision boards. Everything was centered around living at this beautiful place in Cali, this house that was originally 650. So he kind of only saved enough money to like he saved about $2 million, which is great, which is amazing, but his $2 million, 1.5 of it would have gone towards the house. And he would have only had a half a million to live for the rest of his life. And he's not saying that that's nothing, right? Because some people are like, well, that's a lot of money. But if your house costs 1.5 million, what is the maintenance of the property and the land? Will you now have to go get a job at like a grocery store to maintain bills? Are you not gonna have cable? Are you gonna have a car? You know, how much will your car monthly payments and insurance be? There's just so many things that factor into it. And he realized that although he thought he was doing great by saving, because of cost of living and the fact that just milk alone is way more money now, coming from $1 to like $5, $6 on average per gallon, he realized that he didn't really do enough. And now he's like, wow, like I can't even truly retire if I want my dream home, or I have to learn how to invest. So investing is really important. And giving back is so important. So when I say spend, I mean like what are your monthly bills? What do you do for yourself to, for self-love? I also mean giving back, rather is tithing to a church or finding a charity, a soup kitchen or something that you want to give money back to. It's really important that you give back. I think laws of reciprocity, the more you give, the more you receive. I'm a firm believer of that. But, there is a balance in life. And I feel like part of that balance is giving back. When you're just starting out, no, okay, so I think I answered that question. Okay, so we're gonna continue on. So if anybody has questions, once again, if I don't get to your question today, you can always go to the link tree and send in directly, email me a question, and I will try my best to respond to your questions. And no Emmy. 7-Eleven, thank you for letting me know how to phonetically pronounce your name. So businesses, when you are a business and you're an entrepreneur, things you're spending your money on, people forget sometimes, even your checking account. It's important to know who are you banking with, what are their fees, what are their rates, especially in a time like right now, when people aren't making as much money as normal, a lot of us. Let's say, or you're laid off, or you're not making money at all. Before, $30 a month, because you don't have direct deposits coming in, or whatever the situation might be, might not seem bad. But now that a lot of people don't have direct deposits coming in, you might have to rethink who are you banking with, because if they do have a $30 a month fee, or whatever the fees are, that might impact you harshly. Something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is as well, like even if you have kids, so a lot of parents will have bank accounts for their children. Some bank accounts will give for students, it'll be free. Not all banks do that. So it's very important that you pay attention to that. Don't think because it's a kid's account that the bank is automatically going to give it to you for free. Not all banks do that. So it's really important that you keep that in mind. And as a business, you're always looking at the bottom line of these things. So the next thing I would like to kind of tackle will be kinds of businesses. Another question that I'm answering from the messages from before is, what are kinds of businesses, and is it important to have, is it better to have a nonprofit or LLC? So for the person who asked that question, I won't say your name because I don't know if you want it to be out there, but so nonprofit, LLC, it's really going to be about what are your goals with this business. Are you trying to give back completely, and you don't care about profit? And one thing people forget to think about is all nonprofits are not automatically a 501c3. A lot of people hear about 501c3s and they know that the cool thing about 501c3 is that, tax free, etc., etc. Not all nonprofits are automatically 501c3. There's a separate form that you would have to fill out and qualify for. The government would have to approve you as a 501c3. But regardless if you're a 501c3 or a nonprofit, one of the things that people forget is that a nonprofit, you are limited on how you spend profits. So if money's coming in and you're a 501c3, you can't just say I made 30,000 this year through donations and I'm going to spend $25,000 on a lavish boat and trip without a true explanation as to how does that go back to your nonprofit. Unless your nonprofit literally was a yacht charter company that was bringing young kids from inner city communities to like the Hamptons or something, and you can justify it, and your donors knew that's what you were spending the money on. But you have to be very mindful of how you spend the money when you have a nonprofit. So the biggest thing for me was for you to decide if you need an LLC or a nonprofit. One of the things to keep in mind is the money and profits that are coming in. Are you trying to keep this money for yourself, and try to bank up and you're trying to be rich and lavish, or is this about giving back? If it's about giving back in charity, then a nonprofit is the way to go. But if it's about, but even then, once again, you're very limited as to how you spend the money, and you have to account for every dollar. And then for your LLC, same, so there's different type of protecting your business. So you can have an LLC, which is a limited liability company. Then you can also have a S corp or a C corp, which are things to look into. So S corp, C corp, if you think you're gonna have shareholders and things of that nature, that's something to keep in mind. And you would look into those. But if you're just gonna be a sole proprietorship, or you want to have a certain level of protection, and you're not gonna be giving out shares to like 3, 5, 10 people at first, and you're just gonna start off baby steps. I think for baby steps, if you're just starting a business and you want profits and you want to be able to spend your money how you want to spend it, rather it's in reinvesting in your business so the list continues, then an LLC is probably the best decision. If I didn't answer your question, feel free to email me if you have more questions in regards to that. So someone asks, how do you, the next question I'm going to bring in is, how do you get a child interested in maintaining their own business and making their own money opposed to wanting a job? So this is going to be a mommy moment, a personal opinion moment. And what I mean by that is, as a person who teaches financial literacy in the school systems, I'm an entrepreneur, but I started out as a 9-to-5 person. There is nothing wrong, seriously, realistically, with people who are 9-to-5 people. I actually loved being a 9-to-5er until I became an entrepreneur. I didn't even know I had an entrepreneurial bone in my body, honestly. I didn't realize that even working in finance for so many years was leading me towards this direction. But I think it's really important that you know that the best thing you can do as a parent is not push your child into one hole or the other. Yes, you want to support them into hopefully creating a business, but I don't think it is a good idea to force a child to choose to be an entrepreneur or make them dislike being a 9-to-5er, because guess what? We do need 9-to-5ers. Some people are honestly just not made for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. Some people are not made for the criticism or the no's that you get in entrepreneurship. And I think it's the rejection that comes with entrepreneurship. Some people just don't like it. Some people don't like hearing the word no 20, 50 times. So, and as an entrepreneur, trust me when I tell you, it's not going to be all yeses. So yes, you want your child to be able to go with the punches and roll with the punches, but look how many doctors, lawyers, nurses, accountants, the person at McDonald's who flips the burgers, chefs, real chefs, like regular, well, not saying a McDonald's chef is not a chef, but, chefs, period, like, who work at the fanciest restaurants, those are all considered to be technically 9-to-5 jobs, right? Regular, employee jobs. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I did love the aspect of someone telling me, this is what your goals are for the month. This is what you need to accomplish this month. We need to do this, or can you find the discrepancy in these files? And I liked having that structure and knowing after I worked hard that there was gonna be a check waiting for me at the end of the week. And that was one of the scariest things of becoming an entrepreneur to me, was realizing that there wasn't gonna be someone writing me a check. But when I do go pro entrepreneurship, and when I'm in the school systems, I always balance out the two worlds, right? The realism of realistically what it means to be an entrepreneur, the hard work that goes into it. But then I also tell kids things of the nature like, if you are an entrepreneur and you have your own business and you're incorporated or protected the right way, then at the end of the year, guess what? When it comes time for taxes, the maximum you're paying on your taxes is 11%, right? Whereas as a person who works for a corporation, you pay on average 33% in taxes. That's one of the easiest way to get your kid to want to be an entrepreneur, believe it or not. Because when you break down to them that, guess what? If you made $100,000, 10% of $100,000 is $10,000 that you would pay. I mean, 11% of $100,000 is going to be $11,000 that you pay in the government. But when you break down to that same child, that at the end of the year, if you made $100,000 and you're working for someone, that your taxes, roughly speaking, you're going to be at 33%. That's $33,000 out of the money that you worked hard for that is going to the government. That's honestly one of the ways that when I'm in the school systems, that I've noticed that a lot of kids would be like, you know what, I'm not sure if I want to work for someone because I don't want to give somebody else so much money in taxes, and especially if I work so hard for it, right? So that's something to think about, right? So that's one way you can express that to your child, explaining to them that most of the time as an entrepreneur, that you kind of technically create your schedule. And depending what kind of business you have, you might not be working, you might not work as hard or too hard. Um, and then also, you can also think about how, the balance of, as an entrepreneur, sorry about that, guys, I hope you didn't hear that. You can also discuss certain things like, as an entrepreneur, now that you are locked in and you are an entrepreneur, there's almost little to no cap limit as to how much money you can make, which is another thing that a lot of kids like. But I've gone in, like, just 2019, we did 217 schools nationwide. And one thing I really noticed was that there are a lot of kids who don't really care about becoming rich or making a lot of money, and actually want structure. They want someone to tell them when to come in, when to leave, have their weekends off, or whatever the situation is. And they don't want to be entrepreneurs, and that's great. So with that said, but there are kids who don't like limitations, kids who don't like having a set schedule, or kids who want to be multi-billionaires, right? One of the things that we say in the school system is, I am one idea away from being a millionaire. And people be like, oh, why don't you say billionaire? And I'm like, well, because realistically, a lot of us are only one idea away from being a millionaire. It is a little bit harder right now to make a billion, but making $1 million, there are a lot of people of color who are in in a millionaire bracket in family now. And so it is really easier for a child to reach that goal, which is why we say I'm one idea away from being a millionaire. So understanding that, telling kids like, okay, now that you're only one idea away from being a millionaire, what is the next step, right? And the kids who do want to be millionaires, we explain to them like, when you are an entrepreneur, you have little to no cap as to how much money you can make. There isn't a boss telling you that, I don't care if you increased our productivity by 80% this year, you're only going to make $100,000 or $300,000. I remember being in that sense where I made a client $104 million. And out of that $104 million, the cap on what my bonus was going to be for that year, that was basically what I got. I got my bonus and plus my check. That was it. I didn't get 10% or even 1% of the $104 million. Meanwhile, I made it for that client. And the client, literally all they did was give me the cash. But that's kind of the whack part. And so, yeah, like someone said, oh, heck no, right? So it's like, but that's the whack part of being a person who works for someone else, is that no matter how hard you work, oftentimes there is a cap as to how much they will pay you and what they think your compensation is worth. But when you're an entrepreneur, you set your own rules. You set how much you think you're supposed to be making. But once again, it's not a bad thing if your child does not want to be an entrepreneur. The best you can do is do little different kinds of entrepreneurial journeys with them to see if there is one that calls to them. What I mean by that is not everyone's going to be a person who wants to make lemonade and stand outside in the sun. Maybe somebody else, another kid will want to teach art classes, right? To other kids their same age. That's entrepreneurship right there, right? Becoming a coach. Or the person who likes writing songs and now wants to write songs for other people and artists. That's entrepreneurship. And they might not want to work for a label that's telling them, hey, your song has to, it has to not say the word this, or it needs to say this word, or it needs to be more geared to something. Even, releasing a book as an entrepreneur, for any authors that are there. I remember when I wrote my first book, I was told by different book publishing companies, major firms, that they didn't want my title character to be a boy. And I'm like, I'm a mother to a boy. I want the title character to be a boy. And they were just like, oh no, please don't make it a boy, because boys are not in right now. Stories of girls are doing very well. And it's a marketing game, right? So when it's a marketing game, what ends up happening is that in the end of the day, they don't really care what you're saying. They want to make numbers, they want to make money. They want a next New York Times bestseller. And if the one who was before was a book about girls, or the ones that are doing best with books of girls, they're going to suggest that. But as an entrepreneur, I chose to self-publish. And that was an option that I had, was I'm going to self-publish and I'll print my own book, and I'll put that energy into my own book. I'll put that energy into promoting it. And promotion and branding is everything. But now I have a book that's successful, that's done very well, but it's not a New York Times bestseller because I don't know the formula. I didn't know the formula back then of how to do that, and how sales and those things work to make a New York Times best publisher. But guess what? Now that I'm going to release my second book, I've decided I actually do want a publisher. But I feel like now I have more to bargain with. I have more to prove and show how many sales I've had in the school systems, and say, you know what? I want certain basics to remain, but I'm also more flexible now because I want a New York Times bestseller. So it's always, you never know what life is going to throw at you, but entrepreneurship and having a 9 to 5, not a good or a bad thing. Another question from the website. So networking tips for shy people. One of the first things I would say is that I used to be shy. I have a few mentees in this group chat right now who are shy right now. And I think that it's okay to be shy, but it's also important to know that your network is your net worth. We hear it all the time, but it's so true. Grant Cardone is somebody who I like watching and following his things online, his videos and testimonials and things of that nature. And he has like the 10X conference. Grant Cardone once said that every email address that you have and every friend you have is a potential sale, right? That's your net worth in a sense. If you have 10,000 email addresses in 1 month, you're broke, and you send out a blast about a t-shirt or a cup that you have, right? And let's say the cup it costs you only $1 to make it. This, I didn't realize it was already an hour. Hi people, sorry, that was an hour. So if you're missing this, I didn't realize it was already an hour, but starting live again so you guys can rejoin in, and we could pick up the conversation where we left off. So I know what number we were at. So once we hit the number we were at in like about a couple of minutes, I'm going to continue talking about what I was sharing. And questions that were asked that maybe I didn't respond to, because it's hard to read these while responding to your questions, I will definitely make sure I go back and try my best to DM you answers, if that helps. So especially if you sent me your email address in the link, I'm going to try my best to answer everybody's questions. So I was mentioning YNAB app, which is You Need a Budget app. Now, the reason why You Need a Budget app is so important is because it helps you to live within your financial income, within your financial budget. and it's a built-in accountability partner. So what I was saying last before we all disconnected was that if you need someone like a robot to help you with accountability, to make sure you're not overspending your money, this is a perfect app. You would tell it how much you make, you would tell it what your bills are, and then once you even start to get close to overspending your budget, then it would like warn you like, hey, you're getting close to overspending. So yes. Um, Wally. So Wally, 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 is best for tracking expenses. It takes a pic of your receipts, etc., and it like prioritizes it for you. The only thing is, I think Wally's on only on iPhone, but there are different apps that do the same thing. But it's like, once again, if you have like QuickBooks, you could take a picture of your receipt and upload it, and it automatically files it for you. The reason why I think this is important is because you need to be able to know where, when, why, and how much money you're spending. One of the biggest issues sometimes when we are not paying attention to where we're putting our money or spending our money is that you don't realize that you might be overspending. Or even when it comes tax time, you know how much things you might be able to write off, but because you're not really saving it properly, you might not know. So to give you an example, if you're a homeowner and you like, let's say, or you invest in real estate. So the products that you buy at Home Depot to fix your property, your investment property, if you save all those receipts, that's things that can be piled up, compiled up for you to go to somebody, a professional, to then, or even yourself, to file your taxes and hopefully write those things off. So you don't know how much money you might be losing just by not properly categorizing and saving all your receipts. And a lot of receipts nowadays have a die that just fade off. So you don't want to be that person. So if you are into investing, but you don't know where to start, you don't know about stocks, you don't know anything of that nature, Acorn app is a really good look. And why Acorn is a good idea is, although you can't really choose where you're investing your money, let's say you spent $10.39 or $10.40, it will take the other 60 cents and it would automatically invest it for you. Or save it for you. You have two options of it, automatically investing it or automatically saving it. And the cool thing about that is that if 60 cents, you think, oh, it's nothing, right? But if you spent that 5 times in one day and you keep saving it, it all adds up. Every cent, every dollar adds up. And it's kind of like the change theory. If you take all your change and you put it in a jar, that it all adds up and you'll be rich. Like, just my son alone, with his change that he gets, he puts his extra coins in a jar, and the other day he realized he had like $400 in coins. So it's, you know, it's so simple, but even saving a change can really go far. Let's see what's so Stash. Someone asked, what are my thoughts on Stash? It has its pros and cons. The bright side is that you're saving, right? And you're investing, but the negative side of Stash to me is that you're not really choosing your stocks. Stash picks your stocks for you. And personally, me, I don't really like someone else having full control of what I get to pick, because if the stocks they select for you do bad, guess what? You had no say in it, and automatically it crashes, and they're not going to give you any kind of money back because they picked the bad stock for you. So I rather, if I'm going to really do something where I'm taking chance, I rather do my own research. I would rather look into what I like myself. For people who are entrepreneurs who are into business, the next course we're going to be doing is going to be an investment course. And I will be talking about different apps, brokerages to start stocks. I'll be discussing for your parents and for your kids. How do you create a brokerage account for your child? How can you get your kids starting and investing in stocks and bonds? Veli says you choose your own stocks on Stash. Maybe I need to revisit Stash, but I don't know. There was a few things I remember just not really being a big fan of it. But from my end, as a person who's worked in the stock world for 9 years, and since then have remained investing in stocks, certain apps I'm keen on. Stash wasn't one that I was in love with, to be honest. So like for instance, for investing in stocks, I'm more of a fan of like TD Ameritrade. I even like Stockpile more. So like the person who's asking about stash, I would definitely say, hey, if you want fractional shares, stockpile. And if you want full shares of stocks, I would say TD Ameritrade. Those are two of the most common, easiest ones to start. So once again, somebody's asking about stash. Once again, I personally wasn't a big fan of stash, but a lot of people who are beginners do like it and it's cool. But for beginners, I personally feel that stockpile and TD Ameritrade were some of the best options for beginners. Robinhood. So the people asking about Robinhood, the issue with Robinhood, I liked Robinhood, but then about 2 weeks ago they had a crash with their system. I think the reason that I read online was that too many people were so too many people were utilizing Robinhood. And basically, long story short, what happened is that they were all trying to sell their shares and stocks quickly because they were afraid of the economy's crashing. So they all wanted to sell their stock. And Robinhood couldn't handle, I guess, the influx of people, and their app went down. So imagine if you were one of those people trying to get rid of a stock because you were afraid. Now, guess what? The app went down for like a day or for however long it went down. And to me, that's problematic. Like, I feel like Robinhood is a good base, but it's a little bit concerning that their app could just shut down like that on people, especially when people needed it. So I liked Robinhood. I actually used to promote Robinhood for a lot of beginners, but after they had their little crash 2 weeks ago, I would say be very mindful of using Robinhood. Um, so, someone said on Acorn, how do you know the money is being invested well if you don't know where it's going specifically? So, once again, that's the same thing with like what the issue I thought was with Stash, but like with Acorn, same thing. Like, if you don't know where the money is being invested, I mean, it will tell you eventually where the money is going. Like, so it's not like it's gonna just take your money and put it randomly. It will say, um, oh, we put $10 into Coca-Cola for you or something. Granted, Coca-Cola shares are way more than $10, but they'll be like, oh, we're putting $10 of your change into this particular company. It does tell you what company. And if you don't like it, then you can start to tweak it in a sense that you could be like, I don't like this company, maybe, remove it, or you stop using Acorn altogether. But once again, that's only for people who literally don't want to invest in stocks themselves personally directly. And you don't always have to invest it. You can also just save the money because it can also just save your loose spare change. So then maybe you would choose a save option. So it just puts it in a separate account for you and you forget that you even had it. But those are things to really think about. It's like, that's why, once again, before we leave this, I will say again, if you are a beginner in stocks and investing, if you want fractional shares, because like let's say right now you want Amazon. Amazon is $1,919 per share of the stock of company. A lot of people don't have, which is basically $2,000. A lot of people do not have $2,000 to invest in a stock. If you don't have $2,000 to invest in a stock, a company like Stockpile, which does fractionals, and basically a fractional is exactly what it sounds like, a fraction of a share. So a fraction of a share of a stock would be allowed to be purchased, right? And this is once again something on our next session I'm going to go into further. But if you kind of afford $1,900, but you can afford $200 of, let's say, Amazon, then it would allow you to have a fraction of that $1,900 share. So maybe it's only like a 1% or 10% of the share of stock. If you have $190 and you're getting 10% of the actual stock, which is better to some people than nothing. Because, you might not be able to afford the whole thing, but you can afford that. Another cool thing about Stockpile is if you have children, you can create a custodian account and your kid can have their own login and account and you can invest in stocks for them. And then TD Ameritrade, the cool thing about TD Ameritrade is that even if, so TD Ameritrade and Charles Schwab are two of my favorite. You can learn about different stocks. You can learn different techniques. You can watch tutorials on them. There are $0 fees to purchase shares of stocks. So some companies will have a fee, like $5 to $7 per share, which can be costly. But TD Ameritrade, you can invest in cannabis. So one thing that most people probably don't know about me on this live feed is that I'm in law school and my main focus of interest, realm of interest, is cannabis law. So although granted in law school you take a plethora of classes and you have to be well versed in a lot of things, I did make sure that a lot of my classes cover topics on cannabis because I personally feel like that's the next $1 trillion industry, and it's made me a lot of money, and I love it. And so TD Ameritrade has a lot of those cannabis companies and stocks listed on there. So it's a Canadian company, so that's really cool. And there's a lot of Canadian cannabis companies. And hold on, excuse me, I need some water. But yeah, so that's the cool thing about TD Ameritrade. So and it's great for beginners. If you want a website that's really easy flow, easy to utilize, you can learn different things and you can also take tutorials. I think that's really, really cool to go through. So I hope that was informative. I hope you guys like that. I feel like there was something else that I was supposed to credit. One of the questions that I received was how to build your credit. Madam Giselle. So this is my first live that I'm doing on my own, so I don't really know. But if you go on my main Instagram page, there's a link tree, and you can put your email address and whatever questions you have on that link tree. It's the first one. And you can feel free to directly email me whatever questions you have, or send me a DM directly, and I will try my best to respond to it. And the email list, Noemi, is on my link tree. So if you go on my page and the link tree feed is the first one, and I'm gonna be forwarding to all you guys about our next chat, which is gonna be investment. So real estate investing, stock investment, commodity investing, period. What do I think people should be investing in right now? Not specifically stock necessarily, because it's kind of illegal, but I will give you like examples of how I pick the ones that I pick. Might even tell you some of the stocks that I pick personally, and how do you start with your children and yourself as adults? How do you invest? Is there a number that's too little to invest, and how do you pick stocks? And does it make sense to even pick stocks with the market as volatile as it is right now? So to continue, credit. As a business person, credit is really important, whether it's your personal credit or having business credit. So I think we might do a full session completely on that, but as a crash course on how to build your credit, if you have good to bad credit, it doesn't matter. I always tell people one of the best things you can do when building credit is even something as low as a prepaid credit card is great. So a prepaid credit card, the reason why a prepaid credit card is so good is that people don't remember that in the end of the day, a prepaid credit card still builds your credit. So like one of the ones I like is Capital One. Capital One's a major bank for many people. And so for a Capital One prepaid card, you're going to still be able to build your credit. And if you keep paying it on time, they increase your limit and it eventually becomes an actual regular credit card. So what most people don't realize, especially if you don't miss any payments, let's say you had a $500 prepaid card that you put your own money at first, right? They turn into a regular card. And when they turn it to a regular card in like 6 months, then now you have a regular credit card and they refund you your money. So they'll mail you back the $500 that you put in and then now give you like $1,000 regular credit card. So that's one way to start. And a few companies have cards that do that and have those promotions. You have to be very mindful of what the APR is going to be. That's one of the most important things. So some of them will have a yearly fee. I personally, no matter how bad your credit is, try your best to avoid a card that has a yearly fee or a monthly fee. If it has a fee for you banking with them and you're putting your money into it, I feel like that's an issue. And then you can do this with your kids. Most parents do not know that as the age of 13 years old, you can start building your child's credit. Yes, 13 years old, you can start building your child's credit. So most parents don't realize this. And one of the best ways to build a child's credit at 13 is having a prepaid card for them. So, for the people who don't know that, you can build your child's credit, keep in mind, a lot of parents are utilizing children's credit to buy furniture and things for themselves. So when you think about that, now transfer that to just, what about if you just bought a prepaid card for your kid? So to give you an example, if your child has a monthly allowance, let's say their monthly allowance is $100. You might get a card for $200 and spend 100 of that on your bills, on like let's say groceries, and then give them the card with a $100 balance. And now you could tell them, hey, your $100 of allowance is on that card. And now at the end of the month, if let's say in 2 weeks their allowance is supposed to be paying for their snacks for the week, or whatever else it's supposed to pay for. Let's say in 2 weeks they spend the whole $100. Now it is their job to understand that they just spent their whole allowance. And if you spent your whole allowance in 2 weeks, you're not going to get more money, because like a real credit card, you have to put money back into it. And it also teaches kids, hey Melly, so Melly Mel. But it also teaches kids responsibility in a sense that they understand that the money doesn't grow on trees, and they now realize the correlation of a credit card is money still that needs to be paid back. And while you're paying off the kids' allowance and giving them allowance monthly, that allowance money that you're paying off monthly is now building your child's credit, which is why in a lot of affluent neighborhoods, kids are like 17, 18 years old, especially in affluent neighborhoods, and they have like a 700 and something credit score. And you're like, how does an 18-year-old have a 700 credit score? It's because their parents were doing tricks to help them start building their credit from a young age. So even if it's $100 prepaid card, believe it or not, that $100, if you start at the age of 13, by the time that child is older, it adds up. And your child will have a 700 and 800 credit score. You don't have to be black, white, Asian, or whatever the situation is to have good credit. It's really about where is our mentality at. So for the parent who wanted to know how do you build your child's credit and how do you build your credit, if you have bad credit, that's one of the best ways. Now, if you have good credit, and let's say you're in the 700s and you're teeter-tottering and you're stuck there. Like my credit score, my lowest one is an 829. And I realized once I hit 750, every extra point was like I was biting someone or fighting someone to get better credit. And I was like, I don't get it. I was doing all these tricks. I was doing the ratio and all these things, and everything was great. And now I can't even get an extra 5 points, right? Everything is like 1 point per month. And especially once I hit like 800, that was it. It was like pulling teeth. So one of the tricks for personally building your credit that I've learned to help do it quickly is teeter-tottering. And what I mean by that is this. So let's say 1 month you have $1,000 card. 1 month you spent $700 on your card. Do not think if you have $1,000 card and you spent $100 each month for the last 3 months, you're going to build your credit. Creditors want to see people spend their card and spend their money to make money, right? Because if you're not to build your credit, because if you're not spending the money, you're telling them that you're afraid of spending the money. And a lot of people don't realize if you're afraid to spend the money, why would they build your credit for you? They're like, oh, you're afraid of life. You're afraid of money. If you're not spending it, must be because you're afraid of it, or whatever the situation is, it's not going to help you build your credit. And actually, so if you have $1,000 card, you might get a little bump because now you have let's say a higher increase in your amount that they trusted you with. But if you're only spending $100 each month, you're going to get like 1 point here. And next month, you might notice you're at let's say a 719, you might be stuck at 719 for 3 months. Because you're not really doing anything with it. You spent $100, you paid $100. You spent $100, you paid $80, and you had like a $20 balance, or you spent $300 and you paid off $200 and left at $100. Any way you look at it, you're not doing yourself a service. So when you spend the money, that's what's good to them. So let's say you had $1,000 card and you spent $600 1 month, and then so that's January you had $1,000 card. And in February, you had $600 that was spent and $400 that was open. And then the next month, what you would do is you would now pay off like a majority of it. And you would drop it down to let's say only $100 open and $900 paid. And then the following month, you're going to use a lot to the budget again. And then you're going to, let's say, spend $800. And out of the $800 that you spend, you're only going to pay back $300. And now you have a balance of $500. When you start to do those two games, and it's just a trick to help you build your credit quicker, you'll have little bumps, right? So you might go up 30 points, and the month that you have a lot of money open, you might go down 10 points. But guess what? You still made 20 points, right? Then the following month, you'll spend a lot and then you'll pay back a majority of it again. And by paying it back and the fact that you're showing that you're not afraid to utilize your credit, then you're gonna go from 100. You might go up, you might boop up 25 points the next month, right? You might boop up another 30 points again. Until you get to a certain level where it's just harder because now you're like in the 800s and they just start to be difficult with you. So that's one of the things that I would really suggest to people is that. It's really important, and that's only in your favor once you've gotten your credit score to a steady point of like, let's say 700, and you realize it's getting harder to build your credit quicker. Then you'll use those tricks to help utilize bumping it up higher quicker, especially if you're going to buy like a house or something, or you have a major purchase, or you want to get a like a better credit card or something. Your credit score impacts your APR. And APR is really important. If you have a credit card, that you understand how your APR correlates to everything. Minimum payments are not your friend. And for college students, somebody earlier mentioned in the other group chat that they were in college and they wanted to know more about like credit and stuff like that. If you're in college and you have a credit APR that is like 23.4%, and let's say your card is let's say it's a $5,000 card. I know like a lot of college students will just automatically get $5,000 cards. Why do you give a college student that kind of a card? But it happens. So if you have a $5,000 card and you spend $4,000 of that money, but then you start making minimum payments every month, by the time you're done making those minimum payments, if you have a high APR, it's almost as if you borrowed double the money that you borrowed. And what I mean by that is $4,000 turns into $8,000 really quickly, because minimum payments with the APR, the interest that they're adding every month because you're making minimum payments, that luxury that you have, understand that that works against you. So if you're really going to be in this world and you're going to have credit and you're going to be utilizing credit, keep in mind how that hurts you when you make minimum payments. So if you had a car that you bought for $4,000, you could have bought let's say that $4,000 car was like a Honda. And let's say Benz might have been $8,000. I'm just throwing out company names, right? You could have bought a Benz for $8,000. The $8,000 that you took your sweet time paying back to that company, you just gave them $4,000 of your hard-earned money for free because you were doing minimum payments. So minimum payments are not your friend. They don't really help you build your credit. It's not a good thing to do. And you end up paying more. You pay more in the long run, pay back more. So Noemi asks, can you negotiate your APR for your credit card if you have a good credit score? Yes. So let's say you had a bad credit score and you were at a 23.4% APR. Let's say 1 year, 2 years, even if it's 8 months later, something like, let's say, I'll give you a perfect example. I had a mentee. She had a house. Her house was in foreclosure. And when I met her, she was going through all these issues and she was fighting for her house. She fought for her house. She earned her house. She got her house back. One of the negative things that was on her credit report was the fact that her house was in foreclosure. It hits your credit report really badly. So with hitting her credit report really badly, when she first got her first credit card, she was at 23.4 APR. 1 year later, the foreclosure was off of her credit report. She got to keep her house, and now her credit score was higher. With her credit score being higher, she reached out to the company. You can do it in writing or you can call them. And she said, look, my credit score is higher. Can we renegotiate my APR? Yes. You could do it 2 to 3 times a year if you want to. If your credit score comes from a 710 to a 800 or whatever number it goes to, you call them and you negotiate. Also, these companies don't want to lose you. So oftentimes they will negotiate with you. As well, I think it's important when we're talking about credit in the COVID-19 era right now that we're in. If you don't have the money to pay your credit cards, call them and talk to them. It's really important when you call them, you don't just say, I lost my job. You tell them, COVID-19 has impacted my job. COVID-19 has impacted my financial stream. It's a key word. It's a very, very key word for you to utilize in your call. If you just say, hey, I lost my job, then they're not at liberty to tell you that the keyword is COVID and you're supposed to be mentioning that coronavirus has impacted your job because of the pandemic. So Sue mentioned, hi Sue. She said during this pandemic is a good time to call in and negotiate your APR. And yes, it is definitely a great time to negotiate your APR. But once again, you have to actually say the words COVID-19. You have to mention the pandemic, coronavirus, and say, hey, because of coronavirus, my budget is less. Can you please negotiate with me? This goes for every credit card company, mortgage company, whoever. Although now it looks like the mortgages will be waived, but like let's say if you have a company that hasn't updated yet and you're still like, let's say auto insurance is not being waived yet. So for auto insurance, you might be able to call these companies and say, because of coronavirus, this is what's impacted, this is how tight, and ask them to either push it back a month or two for you, or you can ask them to lower the APR or work with you on your bills. And this goes for all bills. So people who are asking, how do I help with bills? This is how you help with your bills, is literally having a conversation with them and mentioning the word coronavirus and COVID. And don't lie. And what I mean by don't lie is that realistically speaking, if it's not impacting you, and I'm very big on laws of reciprocity and power in words. So I am a firm believer. If you tell the universe or you call someone and you lie and you say COVID is affecting you and it's not affecting you, that it will actually affect you. And so I can't stress enough to you guys, if something is not impacting you, something is not a problem for you, do not lie and say it is just so you can get a discount or whatever the situation is, because I feel like universal law, it will actually affect you, because people who really needed it, now you're taking it out of their mouths and you're taking it out to their situation. And before I get off with you guys, I definitely want to mention in business, yeah, it's best not to lie, because it does affect you, hurt you badly. And power in words, right? I think it's really important that we understand, even as people creating businesses, for those of you who are new on the journey of becoming entrepreneurs, the words that you speak about yourself and about your business become reality. So if you speak indefinitely and you speak positive things about your business, that positivity will come your way. But if you speak negatively about your business, honestly, I believe that it will affect. If you call yourself dumb, like I'll talk to people and they'll jokingly say, like, oh, I'm dumbing out. If you say I'm dumbing out, guess what? You will dumb out. And you might say it jokingly, but why would you even use certain words with yourself, right? In the same way, it's okay while you're creating a business to like negate and take out people who don't work in your flow of energy. And what I mean by that is, I've had friends, I remember I lost a friend because she called someone stupid and I didn't want to call them stupid. And because I didn't call that person stupid, she got upset with me. And I remember thinking, like, I don't want to be friends with someone like that. And she was just like, oh, I can't believe you called, you won't call her stupid. What she said was really stupid. And I'm like, I'm not going to call her stupid. What she said was ignorant, but I'm not going to call her stupid because what she said was ignorant. Because if I'm making a mistake because of a lack of knowledge, I don't want someone calling me stupid. And I think that's a business rule of thumb, is like, if you don't want someone calling you stupid, if you don't want someone calling you something, then don't use that word. If someone called me ignorant, I wouldn't take it, personal, depending what the subject was, because I'm like, well, then maybe it was something I didn't know about. I really didn't know. Okay. But it's a word I utilize, so I don't mind if someone hits me back with it. But if you have a friend and you have people in your circle that don't work towards your goals and pull you away from your goals, if they're negative and they bring that energy towards you, or they want you to be partaking in that negativity, it's okay to outgrow people. And in business, you're going to outgrow people, because what happens in business, when you start to buckle down, when you start to focus in and you start to lock in and say, I can't go have lunch this week because I need to budget and I need to focus on my business and I need to spend an extra hour on a business plan versus on going to a party with you or going to go shopping and spend money when I really should be saving, and that person gets mad at you, they're not really about your positivity and productivity. In my personal opinion, that's not a friend. A real friend will always understand. And, like, shout out to, like, my friends like Sasha and Camille and people like that. Like, those are friends I've known for years. So when I was buckling down and focusing on my business, there were many times they would invite me out and I'm like, look, love you, like, cooked foods, but I can't link up with you right now. And Spry Lee says, let go of what no longer serves you, 100%. And, those were good friends in the sense that I could go 6 months and not see them because I'm locked in and working. And when I do see them, we picked up like nothing changed. and we're the best of friends and we're laughing and we have all these jokes. And, you know, and it's really important to have people like that in your corner, because maybe their ambition is not where your ambition is. And maybe it's important to surround yourself with people who have your ambition, because in the end of the day, it can hurt you. If someone's not serving your purposes, if someone is taking away from your purposes, and it's okay to have people in your network that help uplift you and bring you to your next level, right? Not to be fake with, in a sense that like, oh, I'm only going to be friends with go-getters, literally, who can uplift me, in a sense that you have nothing you're bringing to the table and you just want to be around people who can give you freebies or whatever. That's not cool. Be mindful of that, because if you use people for things, the universe, trust me, once again, people now then use you for things, and you have to be mindful of, are you going to be fine with that energy, right? So Sue said it's a lonely time, but you get to meet new inspiring people like yourself, and that's 100% true. The network that I have around me, and it's okay to have new friends, right? You know, there's this saying that says no new friends, and honestly, all jokes aside, I don't believe that, not at all. And what I mean by that is you can have new friends, because a lot of the people that I have around me now are not necessarily friends I had 10 years ago. Because 10 years ago, I was very shy and I had a person I was really close with. And long story short, because I was close with her, I got really too comfortable with my money with her, and I invested in something with her and it went left. And when it went left, it made me very like introverted. And I remember just focusing and burrowing into my work. So for a long time, I wasn't really making friends or new friends. I just kind of only stuck with the people that were in my network. And now that I'm back in the space where I'm actually like, quote unquote, an influencer to some people, and I'm going to events and I'm being productive and I'm speaking at locations, or I'm in so many schools, I'm meeting all these teachers and principals. One of the cool things that has happened on this journey is that I've made new friends. And some of the bestest friends, people who they don't even know it sometimes, but it's like, these are the people that will impact me in a positive way and make me be like, let me push harder. Or wait, there's another level that I can go to. Or look how this person has achieved X, Y, and Z. Maybe I can now achieve X, Y, and Z by doing something. It's okay to have people to motivate you. And new friends, not necessarily a bad thing, because sometimes new friends actually help you push yourself to the next level. So Noemi asks about, how about a mentor? How does one go about getting a mentor? And is it something that you should be paying for? So Noemi, good question. I did mention mentors before, but I don't think I mentioned if you should pay for one or not. Everyone has a price, right? So I'm not going to say yes, I'm not going to say no. And what I mean by that is, if you could find a mentor, somebody who you respect, and who is within your networks, who's willing to do it for free, then great. But even a person who's doing it for free for you, there should be some kind of a barter. Laws of reciprocity, once again, that seems to be the theme of this session. But if you have a mentor, and let's say she's a real estate mentor, I'll mention a real estate mentor, right? I have a real estate mentor, and my mentor was amazing. Like, thousands of properties owned and holding, and thousands that they flip per month, and the list continues. It's just like almost like, whoa, building blocks in neighborhoods and countries type stuff, right? Which is great. But what can I bring to the table? So like, maybe I can't bring something on a real estate front to them because they've surpassed my level of real estate knowledge. But maybe I know more about stocks and bonds to them. So what can you do for your mentor as well? It's always a two-way street. There's always something, a talent that you have that you can now give and pour back into that person to make it a two-way street. So even if you are paying for the mentor, it's something to think about. Like, how can you bring productivity and make that into a mentor who also becomes a friend to you, versus a person who just looks at you like as a payday. It's okay to pay for a mentor. Like, if let's say Gary V. A lot of people know who Gary V is. He has all these cute infographics and he says a lot of things, and he is very inspirational to a lot of people. If Gary V was to say, I'm doing a crash course for $5,000 for 1 hour with me, if you have that money and you can afford it and you feel like it would be something that was productive to you and your success, pay for it. Go ahead, right? Feel free to pay for it. But just make sure, if you do pay for it, that one, you are actually paying for something that will better you. You're not just doing it just to say you did it. You're not just doing it just to get that information that you're going to become useless information. Don't ever spend your money in a location that has become useless. If it doesn't appreciate your value. Understand? If it does not appreciate your value in life, then don't waste your time or energy into it. And that goes with people, that goes for money, that goes into mentors, that goes for anything. Anyone that you spend your money or your time and your energy into, what is the give back? Will it uplift you? So like with Gary Vee, for instance, if you could do that, do it. If you can afford it, don't go broke doing it though. If it's your whole full $5,000, I always tell people, live within your means. If he's asking for something that is literally all that you have, your every dollar, I personally am not a fan of spending your last dollar and every cent into another person or into something that is not a guarantee, you know, and what is actual guarantee for you. So that's very important to be mindful of. And so how could you go about asking to someone to mentor you?